Welcome to the 12th episode of Positive People Progressing. My name is Marty Dickinson with HereNextYear.com and ProduceMyBook.com. I have a very special guest with me. His name is Andy Kap, and he is the proud author of an amazing book that has done some amazing things. So I want to tell you a little bit more about it. But first, Andrew, let's do a sound check and say hi to everybody out there.
Hey everyone, welcome to Marty's next episode. Happy to be here, happy to be reaching out and talking to you.
And you are such a positive person as well. And that is the framework for this program, is that I just think that we need to hang around more positive people. So this gives everybody that 30 minutes every week, every Wednesday, to just be around people who are doing things in a positive direction. They're positive people. You're happy and you're going forward with your business. Most importantly, that you are going forward, because there's so many businesses that are just they've plateaued right now with all the craziness going on, political unrest, civil unrest, diseases everywhere, all kinds of things. And you are just churning along, including your #1 best-selling book that is, you're coming up to a year that this thing still says #1 bestseller.
Yeah, it's a little surreal.
Incredible longevity. Andrew's book is called The Last Law of Attraction Book You Will Ever Need to Read. And it is a #1 bestseller in 3 categories. And you also have, I looked it up this morning, 906 reviews for this book.
In the US, don't forget all the other countries now.
We have a lot to talk about, and I'm really just going to kick that off and say, what's your secret?
You know, it's funny. First of all, I'm going to unfairly recontextualize your question, because people don't ask me what's my secret. Like, what's the thing that you did? And in response to them, I say one thing. And I think that's the important lesson here, because, you know, from a pre-launch and post-launch standpoint, I don't do one thing or one secret. I do a lot of things. I mean, the secret is I am my own advocate, and I go at it every single day from as many angles that I can think of that are in line or aligned with who I am as a person, who I am as an entrepreneur, and what my specific, personality and skill sets can support. And by the way, I realize that's kind of like fluff. What does that mean? I'm happy to dive in and meet and explain what I do specifically and how it lines up with me. But the overarching secret is I am my own advocate 24/7. Since 6 months before the book came out, I've been at this in some way, shape, or form every single day. And even this, podcast, this is not a typical podcast that I'm going to sell books on. Maybe 1 or 2 people will buy out of curiosity. I'm just doing this because I think you're awesome. And I think, the people that your audience is awesome. So I'm hoping I can give value. But all my other podcast appearances, they're about the book, and I go on as many as possible. So my secret, long-winded answer is like, I am all over the place in any way, shape, or form that I can be.
Well, we're going to get into some of the micro details of that answer, but let's start at a broader scope, because Andrew, I'm going to really go out on a limb here and say you are the sexiest guest I have had so far in this program. And you know why? I mean, you're a good looking guy, a nice smile, you're in shape and all that. The sexiest thing an author, a speaker, a business owner can hope for, the sexiest thing right now, is to have a #1 Amazon bestseller. That's what everybody thinks about when they start to write a book, even when they have the idea to write a book. So I'd like you to comment about this time in history. I always ask this question. I like to start the session off with this question, because it means so much to so many people with your answer. When I ask, why is right now the best time in history to be striving for a #1 Amazon bestseller? What does that do for you?
Yeah, well, there's so many answers to that. I mean, the thing about a bestseller is it's kind of like it's a gift in and of itself that helps you sell more, because people being people, if they see that bestseller label next to something, they're going to be curious. There's going to be a certain cachet to it. So in terms of, like, why why is it good now? It's like, it's good anytime. And by the way, why is now the time to do it? It's because there is no better time than now. The last thing you want to do is wait, because if you might be looking at the world around you right now that it's too difficult to do, tomorrow there's going to be difficulties. A year from now it's going to be difficulties. It has nothing to do with technology, by the way, because technology is going to solve one thing, but then there's going to be technology that creates other problems. So there's always going to be things in the way. There's always going to be hurdles. There's always going to be challenges. You like, the whole thing is do it today, do it right now. And PS, my book wasn't a #1 bestseller on day one. It was #1 new release on day one. It was probably maybe 3 weeks later that I wasn't even looking, because I didn't know it was going to be a bestseller. I kind of looked and I saw that the label had changed, but I was not a #1 bestseller out from day one. It took, till the following, I was November 24th. That's when it came out. By December 18th or 19th, that's when I noticed it was a #1 bestseller, which is to tell people, if you launch and it's not a #1 bestseller right away, that doesn't mean you've missed the boat. It doesn't mean that you're out of chances. If you've got a book that's out there for a year right now, there are still things that you can do to change the tide and make it a #1 bestseller.
That is such awesome information, because so many people, they get to launch day, and if they don't have the #1 bestseller on that launch day, that's it. They're done. They stop. They completely stop. I mean, actually, I'd say most authors stop promoting their book after launch day. I'm going to go to that far, because I've been studying book launches for years, and that's what I see. They lead
Yes.
all that you get there. Let's talk about what you did to lead up to that point. Did you go the traditional route of trying to get that Amazon bestseller by forming a launch team and having everybody promote on the same day and all that? What was your process leading up to this?
So Marty, in the past, on other books that are no longer either even available, I did do that. I tried to do the free book day, and I tried to post to all those websites like, let's launch your book. And I'm not saying that stuff doesn't work. I'm saying it didn't work for me. I failed miserably. So for this one, again, I was approaching this book with a whole different mentality. Again, it wasn't, by the way, I'm so grateful every day that it is a #1 bestseller, but I wasn't trying to be a bestseller. I was trying to make an impact. That was actually my focus. So this time around, I wasn't like, I'm going to do a free book day. It only had one day, like 3 days in, just as an experiment. Other than that, the book's never been free. Even though I make it highly affordable, I wasn't going to put together a team. I wasn't going to do all these things to try to game the Amazon system. Instead, what I did was, let me go old school, marketing that's going to work no matter what era you're in. I'm going to pick a sexy title that hopefully I can back up. I'm going to pick a sexy cover that hopefully will draw people's eyes, understanding the way Amazon's user interface works. I'm going to, choose keywords that are going to fit for the book and draw a little extra attention. And I'm also going to advertise on Amazon's native platform, because what better way, like YouTube, I'm sure is really, successful, and Facebook successful. But if I have a book on Amazon, why wouldn't I advertise it on the Amazon site when people are already on Amazon looking for a book just like mine? And then boom, there they see it. So what I did in the beginning was just try whatever I could, not to get like the best sales that day, but just to get as many sales as possible from a strategic, simple marketing and messaging standpoint.
Okay, so let's talk about reviews, because I, as someone who, let's see, I've been involved with 22 book launches now, and we always try to get reviews for the book before launch day. So how did you work with reviews? Because you could have all the Amazon ads in the world, but if you don't have any reviews, you're not going to get any book sales. So how did that part work?
Right. So let me begin the answer with a weird off the cuff, has nothing to do with that answer type of statement. Um, I would rather be getting 1,000 books sold a day in one category of Amazon than being a #1 bestseller in a category where I'm only selling 100 books a day. And people are like, wait, what? Oh, okay. Well, yeah, #1 bestseller, cool, but 1,000 books versus 100. All right, awesome. And what I did was a really cheesy, silly thing where hopefully I shifted your paradigm a little bit, right? Now, this I just made up off the top of my head. Imagine me studying law of attraction and being a part of my life for 16 years and writing a book that completely shifts a paradigm with way better examples. I hope and believe that part of the reason that my book gets reviews is my book made a real legitimate impact on people. But more than that, talking about being my own advocate, I think I do a bunch of little things that invite those reviews. So for example, when anytime anyone ever leaves a review on my book, I could only do it on the US site because I don't have access internationally. But if someone leaves a positive review, you might notice that within a week, there's a reply from this guy thanking them and addressing whatever they said in the review. Not because, by the way, I mean, reviews are nice, and sure, hopefully that invites people, and I know it does, but also I didn't begin that habit because I thought I'd get more reviews. I began that habit because I wanted to engage more with my audience, and I wanted to be the kind of author that was different, the kind of author that replies to emails, the kind of author that cares. And that was one example of many. And I remember someone emailed me a couple months later, like, that's a pretty good strategy. And I was like, huh, I'd never considered, like,
Communication.
right, that is, because thinking about it retroactively, of course, that's going to invite more people when they see that the author responds and they were kind of thinking about leaving a review. Well, maybe now they'll actually give their thoughts on the book. But more than that, again, me being my own advocate, I constructed, and not everyone can do this because not everyone's crazy like me or has the bandwidth because they're focusing their bandwidth elsewhere. I constructed an entire YouTube channel devoted to just the content of the book. And in every video at the end, I do a spotlight review. Meaning, and I didn't realize when I did this, but again, retroactively thinking, I'm basically telling people, if you leave a review, you might get featured on my YouTube channel one day.
Ah,
And I'm like, I didn't think of that at the time, but it does make sense. Like, hey, this is a cool invitation. Like, wow, Andrew featured this person on his YouTube channel, which, oh, look at that, 1,000 views. I want to do that. That's cool. It's fun. And P.S. Hopefully, I like the book anyway. And like, so again, for me, it's a multi combination of giving them a book that delivers on the promise, gets them excited, shifts their paradigm. But by that same token, the book is not the end of their experience. The experience continues when they get free bonuses and they get emails from me that I write with real intention. The experience continues when they write reviews and I respond, when I feature it on my YouTube channel. When I, by the way, when I send content to them that has nothing to do with me, I send an email to people, probably about 20 emails into my system, that shows Paul O'Neill, New York Yankee from old school, hitting a home run without realizing it and having this horrible reaction. And like, what does that video have to do with this? It's kind of like, this is my way of reminding you in a nice, fun way that you can watch on YouTube. You can watch Paul O'Neill swing the bat, hit it, and slam the bat and disgust run to first, not realizing that he hit a home run, and then feels stupid as he's got around the bases. My, audience gets that email as a fun reminder that when you do these methods, sometimes you're hitting a home run before you even realize it. So I kind of find different directions and different perspectives just to give them a better experience, which I think secondarily bleeds into more reviews. So there's very few things. I mean, there are some things I do to try to invite more. I think part of what invites the more reviews is because I am fully engaged 24/7 as my advocate for this book. And through that, an advocate for the readers themselves and their success.
that's probably the most forward-thinking answer I've ever heard anybody give toward how to get reviews. It's a constant battle, and it's like you go to any of the writer groups on Facebook, and once a day there's somebody making a comment or talking about how do I get more reviews for my book. I have 2 reviews. How do you do it? And there's a lot of discussion about more gaming of the system, hiring some company to go out and try to get you 2,000 reviews and guaranteed reviews. Pay us, $1,000, and we'll guarantee that you have 50 reviews. I mean, you're not participating in any of that, it sounds like.
No, and I don't know if that works or not, but I don't recommend it because there's something about organic reviews. There's something about the way a unique individual person who's actually read the book will put a review, whether it's one sentence or a novel. There's something about it that people can inherently know when they read the reviews that they are legit. They can feel the passion and enthusiasm in them. And by the way, here's the fun part. Like, if you get 10 5-star reviews, don't be surprised when the 1-star review comes in, because think about human nature. If my book, I believe, hopefully inspires enthusiasm, because I've designed it to do that way, because I want someone's enthusiasm to lead into their success. But by that same token, it brings so much enthusiasm that they put such a rave review that someone's going to stumble on to the book listing. They're going to read the reviews, they're going to buy the book, and it's never going to live up to the hype. So you should expect to be a victim of your own success, in that hopefully a very small percentage are going to be 1-star reviews telling you that you suck because the reviews that you got built it so much up in their mind, and like, there's so many things that go on that people don't even think about. And I'm going all over the place here, but I just want to give people this perspective, because I think there are people listening right now that they probably remember what it's like to get that first 5-star review, and they show their husband or their wife, and maybe they call their friend about it. When I get a 5-star review, again, I reply to the person and I tell everybody about. I post them on Facebook. In September, I had this thing where I didn't even, like, until day 3 or 4, I didn't realize I was going to do it for a whole month. But I saw, like, what, another review, and I would screen grab another cool recent review, not something from months back, but something from that day or that week. And basically, I challenged myself to have a cool new review to show people every single day in the month of September. If you go on my Facebook timeline, like da 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 da, it's like, it's all of them. I'm just doing fun little enthusiastic things, because again, for me, the review is a byproduct of the party I'm having. And the party that I'm having is the success and fulfillment and happiness of my readers. That's really what I care about. Everything else is a byproduct.
Well, what do you do with those bad reviews? Do you reply to them too?
If they're, so by the way, I love the people that go on Instagram and they show their own reply to the 1-star review and like, look how mature I am responding to this person. I will respond if there's something constructive to reply to. I will respond if if it's clear that they actually read the book and they didn't quit after a chapter. But if someone's personally being negative, I don't bother. It doesn't waste my time. Like, what am I going to do? This is so for my ego, so that my voice could be heard. No, I'm not going to change that person's mind, and people are going to believe them, or they're going to believe the hundreds of 5-star reviews instead. They're going to make their own choice. They're going to have to make their own choice. So me personally, unless there's something positive that I can contribute by responding, I'm not going to waste my time, because I am too busy responding to my real customers, answering their emails, and doing whatever I can to make their experience better.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to, I'm imagining people listening to this. There's a quadrant of people that have been listening to this, and they're saying, well, Andrew, that's easy for you because all you need to do is sit there in front of your computer or on your phone, wherever you go, and be answering all these emails and replying to people. I don't have time for that. I've got a business to run. I've got kids to take to school. And I'm just too busy to do that. Why don't you get a VA to do all this stuff for you? How do you respond to that?
Well, by the way, I am crazy. If you can get well, I would not get the VA to respond for my specific book. I have to be the one responding, because they're asking about, over 10 years of law of attraction experience. But I certainly, if I wasn't so crazy, it would be smart for me to hire a VA to post the reviews for me on Facebook and to do all the things that don't necessarily require the personal touch. For people, though, that say, to your point, that they don't have time, I would say, do whatever you have time for and try to figure out things that are as high leverage as possible. Like, again, I do 20 things. Maybe you can only do 5 of them, but maybe 5 of them will be enough to get you that bestseller in a specific category. More importantly, maybe there are, 5 things that you can do, and there's 5 things that, again, you can hire out for to I realize it's not easy, but I would recommend, to whatever measure you can, with the understanding that it's not always so simple, do whatever you can to find ways for you to fill those gaps, or to have someone fill those gaps for you, while simultaneously being there and being authentic. I say this, you should always have time to reply to 5-star reviews on Amazon, because those 5-star reviews should light you up. You should, and by the way, you don't have to write a whole like just one sentence, just a sentence saying, thank you. I really appreciate that you enjoyed chapter 4 the most. By the way, I like chapter 5 for this reason. Just that, just one little thing. So there's ways of doing this that, yeah, they can build up over time and be high bandwidth, but some are low bandwidth and some should be low bandwidth, in the sense that you should be enjoying this. You should be enjoying the interaction with your customer and the fact that they loved your work.
That's a really good point. I mean, it's the message is what's important. If you're passionate enough about your message, you're going to want to invest time to get your message out there. I mean, doesn't that make sense?
Yeah. And again, no one's going to do everything I do. And by the way, there's people listening right now that are going to do things that I don't know to do, that I can't do, that I won't do, that I haven't thought of. That's the beauty of it. I'm giving you, just so we're clear here, I'm giving you a blueprint, not the blueprint,
Sure.
by which I've experienced results. Some of what I'm doing might really jive with people, some might not. But the beauty is, there's more than one way to skin the cat. I believe the things that I've just expressed here will help you not just in reviews or in sales. I think those are a byproduct. I think hopefully I'm just giving people a little extra shot in the arm that, are you really passionate about this work? And I think the coolest thing is people that work with you, because they get to be passionate and they don't even have to worry about like the heavy lifting of putting it together. Like, what a gift, right? They still get to have that passion and enthusiasm while you're doing like this certain level of heavy lifting. So I feel like there is a lot of space and a lot of bandwidth, especially for people that work with you, to really just dive in and do it, and have fun interacting with their customers.
Yeah, that's such a great point. Well, I want to just kind of take a different angle of this. First of all, I'll bring up a comment that Gary made on Facebook. Gary says fake reviews are easy to spot. They always write the fake reviews the same way. Do people go to school to write fake reviews a certain way? I mean, where do
You
they
know,
learn this technique?
he makes a good point, because some of those things, it's the same person, and one person, as hard as they try, they don't know how to alter their cadence. And again, people can subconsciously pick it up even if they can't consciously pick it up.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a little bit more about technique related to things that are old school but still work, and then new school that if you tried to do these things like even 10 months ago before COVID, they might not work, but they really work well today. So what would you, and this might even just piggyback onto what you've been talking about, but I just want to make sure I get the question out there about any technique you can think of that will help you sell more books on Amazon specifically that worked 10 years ago and they still work today.
Right. Well, besides the obvious of a good title and a good cover, and a good write-up of the description, um, something that works as good in kind of like a different way is, so I'll tell you this. Part of what I did to get books to get more attention on the book is I would take content from the book and I would repurpose it. And I hope I put together some really awesome high value posts in Facebook groups related to the content. Now, I don't even remember what groups were like 10 years ago on Facebook. Well, I'll say this, if there were groups, this is super powerful. And if there weren't, just the process of posting, because there were fewer people on Facebook, got a higher bang for your buck.
Yeah,
So whether it's
sure.
in Facebook groups or on your wall or both, taking content from your book, if it's applicable, repurposing it and just giving free value. And then having people say like, wow, that blew me away. Like, oh, look at that. Look at Andrew's background. He's got this new book out. Let me
Right.
check it out. That is an old school thing. In other words, I guess my answer is the old school thing is giving value, giving away a portion of the free content in a way that satisfies a person, but also makes them curious. What else can you have to offer them? What else can they learn from you? Oh, look, you have a book. Let's check that out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the next one, I want to get your podcast in here too, because that
Mm-hmm.
it seems to me that the whole podcasting world has just doubled or maybe even tripled. Matter of fact, I actually read a percentage that more people, there's a 350% increase in people listening to podcasts just this year.
Yes.
That's a lot of people listening to podcasts now. So how does that factor in? Is that an old school technique, or is this a new thing that COVID provided to us to
I,
be
I
able to sell
think
more books? I mean, what?
I think it's a combination. And thank you, by the way, for bringing up the podcast, because sometimes I don't even think, again, I'm doing so many things. I don't often even appreciate the one thing that's contributing to things more. I do podcast appearances as a guest, and I do a business podcast as a host. And the thing with the host is every single episode, I mention the book, I bring it up, I let people know how it's going. And the cool thing about that is when I have a guest on and then the guest shares it with their audience is also finding about my book. So I think when you're talking about, a post-COVID world where more people are listening to podcasts, consuming content in that way, well, that's just more opportunity and more eyeballs and more ears and more eardrums, so to speak, that are going to take in the message of the fact that I have a book out there. So if they're interested, cool. But there's so many different ways. And every single guest is a specialist in their own world with a certain kind of audience that's just telling their audience about it. So podcasting as a guest and as a host both also have a lot of value and a lot of power if you could do one or both.
Okay, and that has to be cumulative. You can't just start and then stop. I mean, how many podcasts have you done in the past year? I mean, yours is in the host. You being the host, how many podcasts have you hosted?
I think I'm going to publish episode 80 Hopefully next week if I get, or I think I published 80. I think I'm going to publish episode 81. And the podcast launched in March of 2019. So some weeks I've been better than others about it, but yeah, it is cumulative. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things where you never know when one of your guests might be small and then they might blow up. And then your episode, your interview, which hopefully I did a good job, is part of their autoresponder series. So 1 million people will end up listening to that episode where 5 people listened that first day.
Sure. And this all goes back to your YouTube channel then, because you post your podcast sessions onto your YouTube channel. And how many subscribers do you have now?
Well, so the YouTube channel where I post the podcast guests, it doesn't have a high subscriber rate because I find that's more like the whole thing about that video is so that my guest has video to put on their own page for their benefit. A lot of the downloads and a lot of the content for that, people are listening on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Stitcher. The side YouTube channel for the Law of Attraction thing right now has 900 plus subscribers. I think 930 or something like that.
Okay.
And I kind of started working on that in July. So relatively, some people think that's really fast and other people think that's really slow, depending on who you are.
Okay. Yeah. I always look for, whenever I do these sessions, and we're only talking 30 minutes, we're already, I mean, it's 10:27 my time here in Denver, Colorado.
Whoops.
That means we only have a couple of minutes left. I mean, this time has flown by so fast. And I always like to look for the $10,000 nugget. I mean, every one of these guests that I've had has supplied a $10,000 nugget that if you just apply it, I mean, it might be worth more than that. It might be worth 100,000 to somebody. It might be worth 1 million or 10 million. I don't know. But what you've responded with, there are so many $10,000 nuggets in there. I don't even know where to start to point one out. I'm gonna have to go back and listen again. So obviously you've got that. You know, I grew up in Connecticut and New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania, but I mean, New York City, that's where you get that fast talking language. And I just have to listen faster because you just went through about 2 hours of content there for us in 28 minutes.
Yeah, if I may, I'll try to put in another nugget or even a rephrasing of a nugget for people, because I know that people who at least were listening on the previews of the show want to know my secret to selling books or being #1 bestseller. Yeah. And I would say in service to that, as probably repeating, in any way that you can be an advocate for your book and more importantly, your reader in a way that's fun and is in alignment with who you are as a person, with your responsibilities and your lifestyle in any way, shape, or form, or forms that you can do it because that's what's going to make the real difference for you.
That is such an awesome summary of everything. I want to make sure to give an opportunity to you to give my viewers a way to connect with you. And of course, go buy the book, but how else can they connect with you? Because I always maintain that all this information that we've just come up with, great educational content, but if you don't take a next step with the guests that I bring onto the show, it's just going to go in one ear and out the other. You've got to do something next so that you connect with my guests that I bring on the show. So Andrew, go ahead and tell people how they can get a hold of you and what you suggest they should do.
Well, thank you. Well, I mean, just regarding this, just because we brought up the podcast of which you were a guest, if people want to check out my business podcast, entrepreneurial, it's shatterthemoldpodcast.com. But if people want to check about like what I'm doing with the book and things like that, lastlawofattractionbook.com will take you to the Amazon listing where you can get paperback, Kindle, or Audible. Or you don't want to pull out your wallet, you can go to youtube.com/Andrew Kap, K-A-P. And that's going to take you to my Law of Attraction YouTube channel. And again, hopefully you can see the enthusiasm with which I approach those videos in a fun, dynamic way that is hopefully, again, serving the readers and the viewers themselves.
Yeah, that's awesome. I always like to end our show with one final question, and it's always the same one. And listening to the question, it seems like it's a negative question, but it's really not, because so far every guest has turned it around into a positive thing. So I want to see if you do the same thing. Mr. Law of Attraction guy, I'm sure you will. Can you just tell us when it comes to trying to get a #1 Amazon bookseller and to keep it long term? That's really, even more so, the focus of this program is that you've sustained that number and climbing in reviews. I mean, that's just awesome to hear. I love the progression. What would you say if you were to do it all over again today? What would you not employ as one of your tactics to get to that number one bestseller? What doesn't work anymore? We
Oh,
shouldn't even
wow.
think about it anymore.
Um, everything I've done has worked on some level. So I wouldn't have said, like, the only thing I would have tried to do was to try to maybe do certain things more than others. Like, I'm trying to think of a good way to put this. I probably would have posted on Facebook a little bit more because I lost my and I did turn around your question. I lost my momentum. I didn't post as much because it took a lot of energy. But so everything I did worked. There wasn't anything that didn't work, but some things seem to create more enthusiasm. So if I could, turning around your question, I probably would have posted more in Facebook groups and put more value in that way.
Okay. Is there anything specific that you can tell us that you post to Facebook that actually gets people to go buy books?
Well, again, like this is law of attraction. I go to law of attraction groups, and
Uh-huh.
any good law like it's been a while, but I'll go to a law of attraction group and I'll just read. I'll post. I'll teach one of the methods from my book, or I'll teach one of the biggest, most paradigm shifting ideas from my book. People that are already about the law of attraction, I'm going to go in and hopefully show them not something they've never seen before. Give them a paradigm shifting perspective on the law of attraction that will give them a whole new viewpoint and help them give themselves permission to try these methods for even just long enough just to get a result. And then it's not my book, it's not me, it's not my content, it's not the post that teaches them, it's their life experience. So anything I can pull from my book and rephrase a little bit, tweak it so that it's like fits into a Facebook post, that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, that is awesome. I hope everybody realizes you were saying at the beginning of this that you hoped you could bring value to the show. Oh my goodness. I mean, there are people that write books about Amazon bestseller launches and how to do it. And there are people that have courses for doing it. But this isn't something you did 5 years ago and it's over with. And now you're writing, supplying content about how it used to work. You're doing this now. I mean, this
Mm.
your book is going to be a bestseller tomorrow and next week and next month and maybe even next year because you're going to continue with the same focus and drive to get your message out there. So congratulations, you are among a very few, a select group of people that have made that decision to really put everything you have into promoting your book. And that's just really fun to see.
Well, your lips to God's ears, my friend. I hope to continue the momentum and either way, like I care about this. I think it's if I didn't care about this, I couldn't do this because it's hard work. And you either and by the way, if you don't care, it doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes your path to success a little bit more difficult.
Right.
I care. It's fortunate that I'm able to do this every day, but it takes real passion and real drive.
Yeah, great. All right. Well, I'm going to thank you now, and I'm going to announce what we're going to do next week. So thank you so much, Andrew Kap, for joining me on this our 12th episode. And next week we are going to do something, well, quite a bit different. For the very first time, I'm going to be the only person on the show. I'm not bringing in a guest. We've had 12 of these. Nobody wants to be on a lucky 13 of a show episode. So I'm going to take number 13. I can imagine all the technicalities that are going to go wrong on 13. Thank goodness it won't be on Friday the 13th too. But what I'm going to do is give a summary of all the guests that I've had on so far since the beginning of this, because I see an underlying theme, and you heard a lot about it today from Andrew, but there's an underlying theme of why all my guests are so successful in what they do. So I'm going to cover some of those specifics that I've learned and from what I've heard over all 12 of the episodes so far. It'll be just a 30-minute update to bring everybody together and up to speed. So I hope to see you there next week. This is the Positive People Progressing Show. Remember, you become who you hang around. Stay positive out there, everybody. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being with me.
Thanks for having me, my friend. I really appreciate this.